What's up, my Beardos and Weirdos? It's one topic here. Today we're diving into r/NuclearRevenge. Has anyone noticed that we're at video 50 today? That is awesome! I've had so much fun making these videos for you guys. I really appreciate that you guys are liking these videos. We've got 2 stories to go through today. The first one is about a cheater whose boyfriend's friend decides to take some sweet, sweet revenge. The second story is about a landlord who decides his tenants are not worth the time it would take to repair things during the winter. Alright, let's dive right on in. Cheater's car gets destroyed. Alright, so the backstory is pretty straightforward. This girl and I met at an after-school program and hit it off, all lovey-dovey and whatnot. Very happy relationship. She had a pretty well-paying family. They didn't spend a lot, but when they did, it was special. Fast forward 8 months into the relationship, it was now summer vacation and we were both out of school. I would constantly try to set plans up for us. A nice movie, fancy dinner, whatever I could to make our relationship going smooth. She, however, was busy with sports and family things. I was disappointed but shrugged it off. About halfway through summer break, she said she got a new car. A new Ford Explorer. Explorer for you die-hard Ford enthusiasts, and loves flaunting it around. I didn't care for it, but I congratulated her and again checked if she wanted to go out. But again, no. Fast forward. The end of August is coming, and we haven't seen each other since the summer started. I decided to ask a mutual friend of ours if she was busy today, seeing as they were almost siblings. They said no, but they probably had someone over. I asked what they meant. They assumed it was another friend of hers, one who knew her before me. I shrugged it off and decided to surprise her with a bouquet of flowers and get dressed up. I head over to her house and walk up to the front porch, where her folks were sitting. Me. Oh, hey, girlfriend's mom. Is girlfriend home? Mom.
Yes, she is. Are you taking her and her boyfriend out somewhere?
Me. What do you mean? I'm her boyfriend. Dad. You mean she didn't tell you she was seeing someone else? I get flustered and heartbroken, but ask if I can go in and talk to her. I head in and head up to her room, where I can hear sex noises coming from her room. I knock on the door, and her new fuse buddy slowly comes and opens the door. Him. I'm sorry, Mrs. Girlfriend. Me. What the fuse are you doing with my girlfriend? Girlfriend.
OP, you need to get the fuse out of here. I found someone more worth my time than you. He actually makes love with me instead of staying a virgin. Get the fuse out of my house and stay away from my friends.
I run out to my car, bawling my eyes out. At this point, I felt abused and discarded. My chest hurt and my eyes were bloodshot. I ended up driving home and hiding in my room for a few days to cope with the loss. Another week goes by and I tell my friend the situation, and they pity me for having to go through that bull. Then they get the most sinister smirk ever conceived. Friend. Hey, OP, I got an idea. Me. Yeah, what's that? Friend. What would happen if her new car suddenly didn't work? Me. What's she talking about, Willis? Friend. You'll see. Just don't say anything to her about it. I nod and seal my lips. School had started 2 weeks later, and I was adjusting to my new classes. My friend texted me halfway through the school day to stop by after school to see what someone did to her car. My heart dropped. A new Explorer was upwards of around $50,000 at the time, if I recall. If something happened, it would be covered under warranty, surely. I get out of my class and head over to my friend's school to see my ex's car obliterated. Glass on all sides shattered, door impaled, wires sliced through and stripped, headlights broken and disassembled. The car looked like a mess. School had just gotten out, and my ex ran to her in horror. Girlfriend.
OP, what the hell did you do to my car? I'm going to sue you for everything you have.
Friend. He didn't do anything. He actually came to pick me up because we have a party to go to tonight, and we need to get some new duds. Girlfriend.
Then you had something to do with this. I know it.
Friend. I know nothing about what happened to your car, honest, but you better hope your insurance likes you enough to cover the damages. Girlfriend.
Fuse you both.
She got into her tattered car and sped off a couple blocks before a loud explosion tore from her car. Turns out her engine had overheated from a lack of oil. Turns out there was a hole in her reservoir and it leaked out every last drop. Apparently, it was worse. Someone had unloaded a few bottles of maple syrup. Aunt Jemima is a saint. Into her gas tank too, causing even more irreparable damage to her car. I turned to my friend and asked what the hell happened. They responded, "She was cheating on you since April, dude. I didn't know till recently, but when I knew, I guess word spread around and someone wanted to get some sweet, sweet revenge. After that, said friend and I had never spoken about that story again, but from what they had told me, insurance wasn't going to cover any of it. They looked into everything and determined that it looked like insurance fraud and, by the extent of the damage, the car was a waste. There were around 5 or 6 gallon containers of gasoline in the boot and a few lighters up front. By that point, it was deduced that it was an attempt at insurance fraud, and her insurance turned her down. Bye-bye 50K Exploder. Hello, sweet, sweet Aunt Jemima Karma. Thanks for sharing that story, OP. I've read this a couple times now, and I can only keep thinking that if your relationship is that unhealthy, that she's avoiding you and not talking to you and seeing someone behind your back, it's for the best that it ended. And while it's not great that she was being dishonest, the friend was honest with you when they said that she had someone over. The parents were honest with you when they said she was upstairs with her boyfriend. And then when you went upstairs and heard them having sex, you decided to knock on the door? That's weird. And then you get upset when she clearly has someone in there and you heard them both in there. And then you and your friend cook up a plan to get some revenge? It's a little weird. And if it's true, puts you in some serious legal jeopardy. Not that retaliatory revenge is ever something that could be defended by law, but hey, I would recommend not telling the story again. Thanks for sharing, OP, but yeah, I'm glad you're out of a toxic relationship. Take away our heat and electricity during the winter? Enjoy losing your job and paying thousands. Note, this post is owned by other user. TLDR at bottom. I regretfully got an apartment with what is, in my opinion, the worst landlord ever. This man, I will call Entitled Dicha, or ED, has the audacity to call himself a good person in court. Well, let me fill you in. I got an apartment shortly after being released from prison. Happy that someone was going to give me a chance to improve my life, this was clearly not the case. All was well for the first few months. When winter hit and the heat went out, it took 3 days to get ED to even answer his phone. By that time, his voicemail was full of complaints from his freezing cold tenants. He told me the law gave him reasonable time to fix it. We went 2 more weeks with no heat, using our stoves and camping in the kitchen in our respective apartments. When ED got his electricity bill, he attempted to raise the rent on the apartments. Obviously, he was not allowed by the city, so he refused to pay his electricity bill, thus denying all of us heat at all. This is where my OCD kicked in, and I went in full research mode. I studied every law in regards to federal, state, and city landlord-tenant laws and rights. I found so many violations that it was no longer funny, but scary. I studied building code. I studied the condition of all of his apartments. This was easier due to the fact that I was either friends with the tenants or had gone there to repair damages caused by frozen pipes and electrical outlets failing due to shoddy wiring and so forth. ED had pished off all of his tenants. Every last one was pished to the point where they wanted to testify against him in court but couldn't due to the financial hardships the living conditions we were in had been causing. I formulated a plan to get him to repair the buildings he owned. But ED had his own plan. January 2nd at 2 a.m., I was awoken by the smoke detectors in the whole building going off. I quickly ran to the back hall, because no smoke was in my apartment yet, but I was on the top floor. I opened the door and was greeted by a thick wall of smoke. I quickly ran downstairs after shouting for my girlfriend at the time to get out of the house quick. I pounded on every door and screamed fire. I got as many people as possible to evacuate, but the floor with the fire, no one was answering, and to my knowledge contained children. So I panicked. At this point, the fire department was there and began breaking in doors. I evacuated. After the fire was out and the investigation had started, I witnessed ED give the tenant of that apartment's sister an envelope containing an undisclosed amount of cash which was visible to anyone nearby. 2 weeks later, the results were released. Arson. The tenant had used hairspray to start the fire and hid the evidence in a hole she punched into the wall. The very person who had been given money by the landlord. Ironically, she was the only tenant who had paid rent in the whole building because she had started moving in 2 days prior. I had not known she was now a tenant, and her sister and her kids had moved out the day before. I looked at ED and told him I know what he had done, and I was not going to rest until he lost all his buildings. I then began asking tenants for their stories about their interaction with ED. This is where things got real. He had been accused of everything from ripping off employees, theft, grand theft auto, bank fraud, and so much more. I formulated a new plan. I sucked up to him and made it known I am a computer tech. ED had a few broken computers and some printer and network issues. I was in. We worked a deal on payment for back rent. I knew he was not good for his word, but it was all part of the plan. Once I got his passwords and logins, I copied his entire hard drive to my portable one. I copied all emails in his business account and printed his financial records on my Wi-Fi printer, which was next door. After I fixed his computers and network, I went home to review my new evidence. It was enough. More than enough. I contacted code enforcement with all of the violations of code for every building, including illegal electrical installation in his new office without permits or even an electrician. He was immediately investigated. That night, I found a 7-day notice to quit on my door. My roommate was worried, but I filled him in on the plan. Remember, I studied all those laws and rights? Well, we get to court and I open with, "Your Honor, I have proof of a clear violation of the Warranty of Habitability Act." The eviction was thrown out and he was forced to repair my apartment with me still in it immediately. The next month, I was given another eviction notice. Still, he is losing money due to the fact I was teaching his tenants landlord-tenant rights and the laws associated with it. ED kept losing his court dates and kept being told to fix stuff, and he was continuously fined by the courts and the code enforcement. He was sinking fast. Back to that fire. The woman living there was arrested for arson and charged with 2 counts due to the accidental electrical fire on New Year's Day. Turned out to be ruled intentional. So the hairspray was, in reality, attempt 2. He was under investigation for conspiracy to arson and other charges. I wasn't done yet. We went to court again for my non-payment of rent. I won, again, based on the Landlord Retaliation Act, because I had contacted code enforcement and can prove this blatant retaliation. And the judge didn't even listen to ED. Needless to say, spending the winter without heat took a toll on us as tenants. We bought electric heaters and informed the power company that the landlord had shut off all power to his buildings and was requiring the tenants to pay for their own power. Well, apparently his illegal wiring caught up to him. He had wired his apartments to run off each other, and the common areas were now attached to the wiring in every apartment. This put ED in a rough position as local law says it's the landlord's responsibility to supply power to all common areas. This means his shoddy workmanship and illegal wiring prevents him from legally disconnecting the power. The power company turned on all the power and locked his ability to shut it off until the wiring of common areas was repaired and separated from the apartments. This would cost thousands. Thousands we knew he didn't have. ED was panicking. He kept losing in court. People were legally withholding rent. He couldn't shut off services and the fines were debilitating. He kept blaming his tenants and refused to repair things. One by one, the buildings were condemned and ED was required to pay relocation of his tenants by law. Well, he didn't. He couldn't. He was arrested for attempting to sell 3 buildings the city confiscated from him and for selling one that was condemned. ED got what he deserved. He lost every building he owned, got charged with all kinds of fraud, and was investigated for other crimes I'm still unaware of. But I wasn't done. He caused a lot of suffering. I gave his financial records to the IRS, and all the internal memos and everything I got from his computers. Also, I provided the local authorities and code enforcement with the same things. ED was so screwed. I have since gotten a new apartment, and everything he owned has been taken by the city, state, and IRS. I have not seen ED in 3 years, and all of his properties have been bought by someone new, and have all new tenants who are happy with their new landlords. The old tenants got better places with decent landlords. And what about our wonderful entitled Dicha? He is serving multiple sentences for the crimes he committed, and is already not getting out anytime soon, yet the investigations are not done, and the charges keep coming. ED is somewhere in some prison regretting meeting this tenant. Moral? Don't be an ED unless you want to meet the moral enforcer. Oh, OP. What a story. Now, I'm not sure if it's entirely legal for you to steal a bunch of information from his computer, but if he's invited you to repair it, I don't know. I don't know what the laws are around that. That's pretty interesting. If anyone from r/legal advice has some data on that, I'd love to read it over. OP. Wow, standing up for the people who don't have a voice and weren't able to stand up for themselves, and you, regardless of any limited power or any foreseen risk, you decided to help these people out. If anything is a redeeming act, I think that is. You rock, OP. Good for you for standing up for these people. And thanks for sharing that story. Alright, my Beardos and Weirdos, that was another r/NuclearRevenge. Thanks again for checking out this video. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of these stories and what you'd like to see done next. I've had a number of comments requesting different subreddits that I'm going to look at for future videos. Alright, my Beardos and Weirdos, we'll see you in the next video, where we take it one topic at a time.